Let it burn. Imagine the scene. Not just a city, but the city, Alexandria, the luminous heart of the known world. And its soul, the Great Library, a living, breathing organism of 500,000 scrolls. The collective consciousness of humanity is being systematically erased by fire. The smoke is thick, not just with ash, but with the ghosts of poets, scientists, and dreamers. The smell isn't just of burning wood and papyrus, but of burning potential, of futures that will now never be. And she is there, Hypatia. She is not merely a scholar, she is the guardian, the last in a long line of brilliant minds who saw this library not as a building, but as a promise. A promise that reason could triumph over chaos. A promise she has dedicated every fiber of her being to uphold. She stands, framed against the inferno, her face illuminated by the destructive glow. There are no tears. There are no screams of rage. Just a profound, terrifying stillness. And the whisper that escapes her lips is not a cry of despair, but a statement of ultimate release, a conclusion reached at the edge of the abyss. Let it burn. This isn't a story about the tragedy of loss. This is a blueprint for the architecture of resilience. This is a story about the ultimate success, born from the ultimate failure. The question isn't why she let it burn. The question we are here to answer today, the question that will echo through your own challenges, is this: how can the death of your greatest creation become the birth of your truest power? For those hearing her name for the first time, let's be clear. Hypatia of Alexandria was a titan. In the late 4th century, in a world where the intellectual contributions of women were not just ignored, but often forbidden, she rose to become the most influential academic voice of her time. A philosopher of the Neoplatonic school, a formidable mathematician who edited and improved upon the works of giants like Apollonius and Ptolemy, and an astronomer who charted the heavens. But don't picture a reclusive academic, hidden behind dusty scrolls. Picture a public intellectual, a civic leader. Think of her as the CEO of the ancient world's most prestigious institution, a combination of university president, public intellectual, and spiritual guide. Her lecture halls were filled with the sons of Roman prefects, Christian theologians, pagan nobles, and aspiring merchants from across the empire. They didn't just come to learn geometry, they came to learn how to live. Her success was a beacon of light in an era of gathering shadows. Alexandria itself wasn't just a city. It was the Silicon Valley of its day, a melting pot where Greek logic, Egyptian mysticism, Roman law, and Jewish theology clashed and converged. And Hypatia was at its epicenter, a force for synthesis and understanding. And yet, for all this worldly success, her legacy is forever tied to that brutal end, symbolized by the consuming flames. History frames it as a simple, tragic narrative, the light of reason extinguished by the darkness of fanaticism. But that narrative is incomplete. It's the story we tell because it's easy. It absolves us of the responsibility of looking deeper. Today, we discard that simple story. We are not here to mourn a martyr. We are here to learn from a master. We pose the big question. In a life seemingly devoted to building and protecting an external library of priceless knowledge, did Hypatia's true, secret work lie in discovering that the only archive worth saving was the one that could never be burned? And was the fire, in its terrifying finality, the catalyst that completed her ultimate project? The answer, I promise you, will challenge the very foundation of what you are striving to build in your own life. Let's go back into the inferno, not as spectators, but as participants in her consciousness. Let's stand beside her and see what she sees. The flames are not just consuming paper, they are consuming moments. Over there, the section on astronomy. She sees not a burning scroll, but the face of her father, Theon. His eyes alight with wonder as he first taught her how to chart the course of a comet, using the very diagrams, now turning to black dust. She feels the phantom weight of the astrolabe in her hands, an instrument she perfected. Over there, the philosophical wing. She doesn't see the works of Plato and Plotinus burning. She sees the face of a young, conflicted student, a Christian named Synesius, who would later become a bishop. She sees the hours of impassioned debate they shared, wrestling with the nature of the soul, using those very texts as their battleground and their bridge. Each scroll is a relationship. Each chapter, a conversation. The fire is not an event. It is 1,000 small deaths happening at once. The loneliness in that moment is absolute. It is the loneliness of the visionary in a world gone blind. She had dedicated her life to the philosophy of reason, to the belief that, with enough light, any shadow could be dispelled. And now, the shadows were dancing in triumph, fueled by the very light she had sought to protect. Her critical, fatal miscalculation? It was an error of faith. Not religious faith, but faith in the inherent goodness of a logical argument. She believed that reason was a universal language, that it could negotiate with rage, that truth could disarm hatred. She chose to stay in an increasingly volatile Alexandria, a city tearing itself apart with political and religious strife, because she believed her presence was a shield. She thought that by guarding the physical library, the symbol of knowledge, she was guarding knowledge itself. But in doing so, she chained herself, and her ideals, to a physical location. She made wisdom a prisoner of geography. The consequence was that she, the living embodiment of these ideas, became as vulnerable as the stone walls and flammable papyrus around her. The mob couldn't burn a thought, but they could burn a building. And they could tear apart a woman. But who was the real antagonist here? The mob was just a symptom. The true enemy, the timeless foe that Hypatia had to face in the crucible of that fire, is one we contend with every single day. Let's give it its proper name. The Curator of Certainty. The Curator of Certainty is that seductive whisper in your ear that says your value lies in what you have accumulated. It's the voice of the ego that measures your worth by your credentials, your title, your bank account, your follower count. It tells you to build a fortress of achievements and then spend your life defending it from attack. It turns the dynamic flowing river of self-development into a stagnant, perfectly manicured museum of past glories. Hypatia was the world's greatest curator, and in that moment, she saw the terrible truth. Her museum had become a gilded cage. The curator promises security but delivers only anxiety, because a fortress, by its very nature, is always under siege. To truly stay hard when life's fires come for you, your power cannot reside in something that can be taken away. So, what is the profound, counterintuitive lesson she extracts from this summit of suffering? The world would tell you the lesson is, build stronger walls, hide your treasures, never let your guard down. Hypatia's revelation was the direct opposite, a truth so radical it borders on terrifying, yet so powerful it offers ultimate freedom. The lesson is this: knowledge is not a fortress to be defended, but a seed to be scattered. Her entire life had been an exercise in concentration, gathering all the world's wisdom into one glorious place. The fire taught her that true preservation lies in distribution. The fortress was a single point of failure. It made knowledge vulnerable, a target. But a seed? A seed is a promise. It's a decentralized unit of potential. A scroll can be burned, but an idea, once it has been properly planted in the fertile ground of a curious mind, is fireproof. It becomes part of that person's DNA, a living thing that they will, in turn, plant in others. This is the ultimate abundance mindset. The realization that the more you give away your most valuable asset, wisdom, the more of it there is in the world. Let's extinguish the memory of the fire and travel back a decade. Let's step into the sun-drenched courtyard of the museum. There are no flames here, only the incandescent glow of discovery. Hypatia is not a symbol. She is a teacher, alive and engaged. Let's be a fly on the wall. Watch her. She doesn't stand at a lectern, dictating truths. She walks among her students, who sit in a circle. There's Orestes, a sharp-eyed Roman destined for a governorship, his brow furrowed. There's a young woman from Syria, her mind as keen as any man's, challenging a point of geometry. There's a quiet Egyptian boy in the corner, absorbing it all. Orestes speaks. Hypatia. The law tells us what is just. Why do we need philosophy? Another teacher might have quoted Plato. Hypatia leans in, her expression one of genuine curiosity. An excellent question, Orestes. Tell me, does the law change when we cross the border from Egypt into Libya? Of course, Orestes replies. And does justice itself change? She asks, her voice soft. Silence. The entire group is hooked. She hasn't given an answer. She has opened a door. This was her method. Her philosophy wasn't a static body of knowledge. It was a dynamic process of inquiry. The daily discipline she instilled was not rote memorization, but the far more rigorous practice of questioning one's own assumptions. This is the source of all true study motivation, not the desire to accumulate answers, but the burning need to ask better and better questions. She wasn't programming her students, she was teaching them how to code. Now, for our soi radi kuiu, diem, the flaw spotlight. It is crucial to remember, Hypatia was not a goddess of reason. She was a human being. Accounts from her contemporaries suggest a persistent flaw, one born of her own brilliance, an intellectual impatience. Her mind operated at a velocity that few could match, and she was sometimes visibly frustrated by those who couldn't follow her elegant leaps of logic. There was a cool austerity to her, a barrier of intellect that could feel intimidating. Her emotional intelligence, while formidable in debate, perhaps lacked the warmth to connect with a mind closed by fear or dogma. She could map the heavens, but she sometimes struggled to navigate the messy, irrational territory of a human heart that wasn't open to her. And we should be grateful for this flaw. It demolishes the impossible myth and reveals a relatable woman, reminding us that even the most evolved minds are engaged in a lifelong journey of self-development. So how do we, in our modern world of digital fortresses and intellectual property, apply Hypatia's radical, fireproof philosophy? We can transform her method into a concrete, actionable tool for your own personal development. I call it the Alexandria Protocol. It is a discipline, a practice, for achieving radical resilience. Step 1. Identify your library. Right now, be brutally honest with yourself. What is the great library you spend all your energy defending? Is it your carefully curated career path? Your financial portfolio? Your public reputation? Your identity as a successful person? Name the central fortress around which your ego has built its walls. Step 2. Conduct a controlled burn. This is not a metaphor. It's a powerful visualization exercise, a core technique of Stoic motivation. Schedule 10 minutes. Sit down, close your eyes, and let it all burn. See the promotion go to someone else. Watch the market crash and your savings disappear. Imagine the negative article being published. Don't just glance at the fear. Invite it in for tea. Feel the full emotional weight of the loss. Why? Because you cannot become fireproof until you are willing to walk through the fire. Step 3. Catalog what survives in the ashes. After the mental inferno has subsided, look around. What is left? Your skills are left. Your integrity is left. The love of your family is left. Your curiosity, your resilience, your hard-won wisdom, these things are untouched. This is your real library. This is the indestructible archive of who you truly are. This exercise provides profound clarity and forces you to focus on yourself, your essential, unshakable core. This is the only path to a true abundance mindset. The deep knowing that your real wealth is not in any single library, but in your eternal capacity to build a new one. Now, we return, one last time, to the burning shore of Alexandria. We see Hypatia, a lone figure against a backdrop of ruin. And we hear that whisper that started our journey. Let it burn. We no longer hear it as defeat. We hear it as a coronation. It is the sound of a mind breaking its final chain. It was not an act of surrender. It was the ultimate act of teaching. In that moment, she understood with soul-deep certainty that the Great Library of Alexandria was never the building behind her. It was the network of minds she had ignited. It was Orestes, who would go on to govern with a more questioning mind. It was Synesius, who would lead his congregation with a broader sense of compassion. It was every student who left her classroom not with a full notebook, but with a sharper mind. The fire could claim the papyrus, but it could not reclaim the seeds of reason, skepticism, and intellectual rigor she had planted across the Roman Empire. That was her real wealth creation. A legacy that was decentralized, open source, and eternal. She might have even been grateful for the fire, for its terrible, clarifying light revealed the true nature of her life's work. To stay hard, to be truly purpose-driven, you must be willing to let go of the symbols of your success to save the substance of it. Her final lesson was not written in ink, but in flame. It tells us that your true value is never what you accumulate, hoard, or protect. It is not your title, your home, or your awards. Your true, indestructible value is the wisdom you integrate into your own being and the capacity you build in others. Your legacy is the gardens you plant in other people's minds. That is the only immortality a fire can never touch. So, I ask you, what are you building? A fortress or a garden? Stop defending and start planting. Embrace the discipline of letting go. Have no excuses in your quest for internal growth. Ask yourself, how bad do you want it, this inner peace, this indestructible core? Build your inner library. That is the work. That is the path. What fire in your own life, personal or professional, forced you to discover what truly mattered? Share your story in the comments below. Your journey has the motivational power to be the light for someone else walking through their own darkness. If this blueprint resonated with you, subscribe to the 500 Millionaire Blueprint. We don't just chase success, we dismantle it and rebuild it on a foundation that can never be broken. Thank you for listening.